Look at these three pictures on the screen. Which of them do you believe is the wealthiest? Your answers, please type in the comment below. It might surprise you from what you've written in that your answer might not be the correct one, and we will discuss why that is. Over time, society has put in our minds that in order for someone to appear wealthy, they need to have a certain look. And that was something that was driven by consumerism. And hence, people tend to think that in order to look wealthy, you need to look flashy and you need to accessorize with name brand labels and with lots of other forms of material possessions that are associated with luxury. However, we know that genuinely wealthy people do not feel the need to parade their wealth out in the public for everybody to notice, because those people who dress in those name brand labels and those high-end accessories are literally drawing attention to them wherever they go and whatever they do. Wealthy people want to remain anonymous. They don't want people to know their level of wealth that they possess. And therefore, the way in which they dress is going to be considerably different from the stereotypical accessorizing and materialism that we tend to see portrayed in social media and on mainstream media. Welcome or welcome back to Ira Living. In this video, we're going to be having a conversation about why it is so important to look poor. Now, by stating looking poor doesn't actually mean that you're going to be looking disheveled and unorganized and looking tacky when you're going out. What it actually means is that you're dressing in a manner that is going to be classic, but at the same time understated. And so that understated wealth means that you don't need to accessorize with certain name brand logos and labels just to be able to look chic or to be able to look as though you are playing a role or a part to appease to society. What you actually want to be able to do is to know that the things that you're wearing are signature to you and to your style and to the brand that you want to create for yourself, and not appealing to social approval and rating. And therefore, dressing in a manner that showcases your own self-value, your self-worth, and making it clear from the pieces you have in your closet what your style is, and that you are able to dress elegantly and at the same time with a high level of simplicity. Many people going out and dressing a certain way, they're doing so in order to impress others. Ever heard of keeping up with the Joneses? Sometimes people are simply doing that so that they can get the attention that they believe that these pieces brings them. But the reality is that wealthy people are so busy living their lives and enjoying it and figuring out new ways and concept ideas to make more money and to add to their wealth portfolio that they have very little time impressing the people, especially the people who are seeking to be impressed. Because in wealth circles, let's face it, what are you going to do next to impress the other person when you literally are around people who you have the similar portfolio to and who understand the values of money and the qualities that you need to curate an excellent life for yourself? There is very little need then to impress, because the way in which you would impress those people is about the conversations that you would be having, the way in which you're looking at how to improve your return on investment and the different markets that you are seeking to explore. So the ways of impressing people in this circle is very different. And material possession is hardly the way in which they're going to use to do so. Some people go down the path of looking towards self-aggrandizement, which is for them the way in which they want to portray themselves as being powerful and important. However, people who are actually wealthy have very little need to do that. They have a certain level of self-confidence and a certain level of self-awareness, and therefore they have nothing to prove to other people about who they are and what they're able to do, because it's already something that goes without saying. Their reputation already precedes them, and if it is in a circle where they're going to need to do that, then that's hardly a circle that they're going to want to be in. And therefore you find that wealthy people actually prefer to live their life incognito. They don't really need a lot of people to know who they are, and they prefer to stay in the shadows and build their portfolio and work on the things that they find intriguing and interesting, and those things that are actually profitable to their mental, physical, and emotional well-being, and also seeking out their spiritual and financial development. They collocate the lifestyle that they want to live, and then they live life on their terms because they're in a position to afford to do so. Equally, certain people want to showcase a sense of wealth, because that's what they're using as a means of challenging their own insecurities. However, many wealthy people who are conscious of their insecurities seek ways in which they can learn how to deal with those insecurities without allowing it to cause them to break the bank per se, because they are consciously aware of the fact that those areas of weaknesses can be directed in other ways to be able to create for them a better way of life without actually diminishing their wealth portfolio. As human beings, we all have insecurities. It's about understanding that we're not seeking for perfection, but we're seeking to live a life that is fulfilling, joyful, and we feel accomplished. And that's their aim. Wealthy people will invest their time, effort, and energy in seeing how they can improve those things that are excellent about them and accept those things that they find to be less perfect. It's like the Chinese do. When they're training their athlete, they focus on their strengths and they build those up rather than focusing on their weakness, because that is just going to be taking up so much time and not giving them the return on investment that they actually seek. And therefore, wealthy people seek to pay attention to those things that are actually strengths and learn how to accept those things that are not perfect, but things that they can live with because that's their reality. They are not desperately seeking ways to see how they can transform that and try to impress people otherwise. They have their ways in which they showcase their strengths more so, and therefore have less attention being paid to those areas of insecurity. Although there are those who also find ways of how they can maximize profit on their insecurities because they realize that humanity is not perfect and other people are out there with flaws and imperfections and insecurities, and it makes them seem more human to those individuals when they embrace those realities about their insecurities. It doesn't mean that they're hung up on it and want to make sure that they seek every means of eliminating it from their existence. It's about accepting oneself with the good and the bad and seeing how you can work them all to your advantage. The idea of what people in society consider to be wealthy means that you need to be wearing name brand luxurious items, and you need to also be going out and having extravagant possessions and at the height of materialism. However, wealthy people tend to behave in a way that society would consider to be poor because they're simple, they wear understated items, although they are high quality. And so they represent themselves in a way that society would not deem to be wealthy. However, oftentimes, those are the people who have understated wealth. And people oftentimes do not notice that they do because they are not screaming, here I am, look at me, I can wear this name brand label. And what we ought to be able to try and see how we can do is to ascribe to a way of living that we don't need all of these embellishment to give us a sense of identity and value, but we can find our value and our worth in other things whilst we seek ways of building up our portfolio in the ways that are actually going to benefit us and create legacy for the future that we will be living and for those that we will leave behind. And finally, it is worth noting that with name brand labels and accessory, there is a premium cost that comes with it that doesn't necessarily equate to the quality that wealthy people are looking for. And therefore, they are going to be more likely to want to get things that demonstrates quality rather than demonstrating flair. They're more likely to want to look for things that are going to look timeless rather than things that are going to be showcasing popularity. They're more likely to want to go with things that look vintage rather than to go with things that look overly accessorized. There is a certain quality that wealthy people pursue that is not normally what society considers that they pursue. And it is worth understanding that so that we are able to better build our wealth portfolio without really needing to fit into the societal status quo, whilst negating the wealth portfolio that we could be building that will leave a legacy that speaks for far into our future. The next time you contemplate how you showcase your wealth, it is not going to be through the material possessions that you have, but rather it's going to be through the portfolio that you have been able to steadily build to give you a good financial standing for now and for the future that you are collocating for yourself. Financial literacy is revolutionary. It has transformed my life, and I believe that it can do the same to yours.